The sky above Earth darkened, not with the coming of night, but with the shadow of something far more ominous. It was the Vrex Dominion, a galactic empire that had crushed entire civilizations in its wake, now hovering above Earth. Their ships, impossibly large, gleamed ominously against the backdrop of the sun, casting an unnatural eclipse over the planet. The people of Earth, for the first time in history, faced an existential threat from beyond the stars. The media had already gone wild. News outlets broadcasted the Vrex flagship as it moved into Earth's orbit, a monstrous thing that dwarfed the largest human-made structures. The sheer scale of the ship was incomprehensible, its edges lined with intimidating plasma cannons, and the dark hull adorned with alien symbols that no human had yet deciphered. The world's governments, still reeling from the shock of contact, scrambled to figure out how to respond. In Geneva, at the United Nations headquarters, the Emergency Council had convened, and Earth's leaders were seated in tense silence. General Eva Moretti, the head of Earth's Unified Defense Force, stood at the front of the room. A no-nonsense woman in her mid-40s, she had seen her fair share of military threats. But nothing like this. Her expression, hardened by years of global command, betrayed no fear, but her mind was racing. The Vrex were not just another alien species. They were conquerors, known across the galaxy for their ruthlessness and technological superiority. A towering hologram flickered to life in the center of the room, displaying the Vrexian emissary. It was an imposing figure, humanoid but alien, with thick gray skin and eyes that glowed like molten lava. It spoke in a language that made the air hum, but the translation was instantly projected for the room to hear. "We are the Vrex Dominion," the emissary's voice resonated with a deep, metallic tone. "We bring forth your final ultimatum. Surrender unconditionally, or face annihilation." The room was silent for a long moment. The air felt thick with the weight of the decision that loomed over humanity. Then, the Vrex emissary's words rang out again, this time more forceful. "Your world will be ours. Your resistance is futile." The room erupted into murmurs. Earth's leaders had little experience with alien diplomacy, much less the threats of galactic empires. But one voice cut through the chaos, General Moretti's. "Enough," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "We won't surrender." The other leaders turned toward her, some in disbelief, others in cautious agreement. But Moretti's eyes locked onto the Vrexian hologram with unwavering determination. "We need a demonstration of your power. If we're going to make a decision, we need to know exactly what we're facing." The Vrex emissary paused. It had been decades since any civilization had dared to challenge the Dominion's might. The emissary's lips curled into a smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Very well," he said coldly. "Prepare to witness the might of the Vrex Dominion." The hologram flickered out, and the room grew tense once again. General Moretti's mind raced. Earth had no idea what it was up against. This could be a massive mistake. But she had to buy time. The only way to learn about this enemy was through their demonstration. She would not be intimidated. Outside, in space, a small asteroid, the size of a city block, drifted harmlessly in the vastness of the cosmos. It was a perfect test for the Vrex to showcase their power. The Vrex ship, which had been hanging just outside the orbit of the moon, fired a single, focused beam of energy at the asteroid. The beam was so precise, so devastating, that it carved a perfect hole in the asteroid's core, obliterating it completely in a blinding flash of light. The asteroid was gone in an instant, reduced to cosmic dust. The broadcast from the Vrex ship was silent for a moment, allowing humanity to digest the demonstration. It was a show of raw power, a clear statement of their superiority. And yet, in the silence that followed, something unusual happened. General Moretti crossed her arms and let out a low chuckle. The room fell silent as all eyes turned toward her. "Is that it?" she asked, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "That's your big demonstration?" The room went still. Some of the leaders stared at her, bewildered. She was supposed to be the one who was careful, the one who took these threats seriously. But Moretti was not fazed. She had seen more than her fair share of technological threats, and none of them, no matter how advanced, could outsmart human ingenuity. The emissary's image flickered back to life on the screen, clearly annoyed. "Do not underestimate us, human." "I'm not underestimating you," Moretti replied, her voice steely. "But a laser show is not exactly the kind of firepower that will make us kneel." The Vrexian emissary's eyes narrowed. "Then you will regret your defiance." The hologram vanished, leaving behind a sense of ominous finality. As the meeting concluded and the room emptied, General Moretti stayed behind, looking out over the city through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She turned to one of her top advisors, Lieutenant Jackson, who was standing nearby. "Get the team ready. We've been preparing for this kind of thing for years. We'll show them what human ingenuity really looks like." The message was clear. Humanity was not ready to give up. And while the Vrex may have thought their weapons were enough to crush a world, they hadn't accounted for one thing. Earth's greatest strength was not in its firepower, but in its ability to think, adapt, and innovate under pressure. The invasion was coming, and humanity would meet it head-on, with technology and spirit that would make alien weapons look like mere toys. End of Chapter 1. As the Vrex fleet settled into Earth's orbit, preparing for the invasion, General Ava Moretti and her team huddled in the underground command center of Earth's Unified Defense Force. The sprawling facility, hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains, housed humanity's most advanced and secretive technologies. Here, in the heart of Earth's military might, they were ready for the fight of their lives. General Moretti stood before a large holographic map of Earth's battle zones, her face illuminated by the glowing blue projections. "They think they can scare us with a flashy light show. This time we show them what humanity can do." The room buzzed with activity as her top engineers and strategists worked furiously, coordinating Earth's defense. The Vrex had shown their power, but Moretti wasn't worried about their energy weapons or massive warships. Earth had prepared for threats like this in secret, developing technologies that could level the playing field. "Show them what we've got, Dr. Okoye," Moretti said, addressing the lead engineer, Dr. Kira Okoye, who stood next to a control panel, her face tense with concentration. Dr. Okoye was a brilliant, eccentric mind who had spent years developing cutting-edge weaponry for humanity's defense. Her latest creation, small, seemingly inconspicuous nanobots capable of dismantling anything at the molecular level, was about to be unleashed. She tapped a few buttons, and the holographic image shifted to show the Vrex flagship hovering in orbit. These nanobots can infiltrate any piece of alien technology, break it down atom by atom, and render it useless. "We'll disable their shields, and then we can strike." General Moretti nodded. "How long until we can deploy them?" "Within the hour," Dr. Okoye replied, a gleam of confidence in her eyes. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Jackson, Moretti's trusted field commander, was overseeing the activation of Earth's next line of defense, a fleet of cutting-edge kinetic railguns mounted on satellites in low orbit. Unlike the energy weapons used by the Vrex, these railguns fired projectiles at near-relativistic speeds, capable of piercing even the toughest alien armor. Jackson's eyes scanned the status screens. "The railguns are online, General. Ready to fire at your command." Moretti smiled. "Let's show them what a real weapon looks like." At that moment, the first Vrexian wave arrived. Their warships descended like titans, brimming with plasma cannons and troops eager to engage. On Earth's surface, cities braced for impact, and the world held its breath. The first Vrex ships opened fire, their plasma blasts lighting up the sky. However, their shots were absorbed by Earth's newly developed energy diffusion shields, which had been refined in secret, designed specifically to counter the Vrex's weaponry. Then, with a roar of acceleration, the kinetic railguns fired. The projectiles shot through space, streaking toward the Vrexian fleet at an unimaginable speed. The first shot collided with the closest Vrex ship, piercing through its thick armor like a hot knife through butter. The Vrexian warship crumpled, breaking apart into chunks of debris as its systems fried under the impact. On the ground, chaos erupted as drones, developed by Earth's AI engineers, launched into the sky. Thousands of autonomous drones, equipped with AI systems that allowed them to think and adapt on the fly, swarmed toward the Vrex forces. They engaged the Vrexian infantry with ruthless precision, disabling their armor and overwhelming them in the blink of an eye. Moretti watched as Earth's weapons wreaked havoc on the alien invaders. The Vrex had underestimated the human ability to adapt. Their high-tech warships, designed to intimidate, were no match for the relentless precision of humanity's tools. General, Dr. Okoye's voice crackled through the comms. The nanobots are deployed. The Vrex shields are starting to fail. Moretti grinned. Perfect. Let's finish this. As the Vrex fleet reeled from the effects of the nanobots and the railgun strikes, the human forces pushed forward. With every passing minute, the invaders were being pushed back, their technology unraveling before Earth's superior, adaptive weapons. The message was clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. End of Chapter 2. The first wave of the Vrex Dominion's assault had been met with unprecedented resistance. Earth's defenses were proving more than a match for the invaders, and the initial shock of their arrival was rapidly turning into frustration. The Vrex, accustomed to crushing civilizations with their overwhelming power, were now faced with an enemy that not only fought back but adapted at an alarming pace. On the bridge of the Vrex flagship, Supreme Commander Thrax paced back and forth, his massive form casting shadows over the room. His people had conquered hundreds of worlds, each time with ease. Yet here, in the face of humanity, something was different. The human defenses had already rendered their plasma weapons ineffective, and their warships had been pierced by Earth's kinetic railguns with terrifying accuracy. "We are being humiliated," Thrax growled, his deep voice vibrating the walls of the command room. "Their technology is primitive compared to ours. How can they stand against us?" His second-in-command, a coldly logical officer named Croth, stood by his side, scanning the battlefield reports. "Their shields are absorbing our energy weapons, and their railguns are proving remarkably effective. But we've taken no casualties of significance. Their tactics are unpredictable." Thrax slammed a fist into the console. "We will not be mocked. Deploy the Ascendant Wave." Croth hesitated, knowing what that order meant. The Ascendant Wave was a weapon of last resort, an orbital bombardment capable of turning a planet's surface into a molten wasteland. The Vrex had used it only once before, and it had been devastating. But now, in the face of a resourceful enemy, was it the right choice? "Do it," Thrax snapped. Above Earth, the Vrex flagship released its payload, an immense energy cannon mounted on its underside. The weapon charged, and a brilliant beam of focused energy fired toward the planet. The blast was so intense it could be seen from space as it tore through the atmosphere, a harbinger of destruction. But before it could reach its target, a sharp, unexpected phenomenon occurred. The beam wavered, sputtered, and suddenly diverted into a harmless burst of light. It had been intercepted by an unseen force, a human-designed gravity well generator, still in its experimental stages. Humanity's scientists had been preparing for such an eventuality, studying the Vrex's energy signatures and developing a countermeasure. The room aboard the Vrex flagship fell silent. Thrax stood frozen, staring at the holographic displays, his mind racing. What just happened?" he muttered. Croth's voice was cold but laced with fear. "Their technology, it redirected our weapon." Thrax's rage boiled over. "Impossible! Their technology should be incapable of this." At the same moment, on Earth's surface, General Moretti and her forces witnessed the effects of their gravity well. The orbital bombardment had been neutralized with ease, like a child batting away a toy. Moretti couldn't help but smile grimly. "They've just learned their first real lesson," she said to her team, her voice low but filled with a fierce pride. "Don't underestimate the humans." In space, the Vrex Dominion's massive fleet began to realign, preparing for their next offensive. But this time, there was hesitation in their movements. The Vrex had never encountered an opponent like this, one that could turn their own weapons against them, adapt in real time, and respond with cold efficiency. Back aboard the Vrex flagship, Thrax's eyes narrowed. "We will not lose to these insects. Initiate the full-scale invasion. They will not escape our grasp." But even as he issued the order, he felt a creeping unease. The humans had proven themselves capable of far more than he had ever anticipated. The tides of war were shifting, and for the first time, the Vrex realized they were facing something far more dangerous than a simple species. They were up against humanity, a species driven by ingenuity, a species that refused to back down no matter the odds. On Earth, General Moretti stood before a large screen, watching the unfolding battle with determination. "They'll keep coming," she said quietly. "But they won't expect what's coming next." The human forces, now emboldened by their success, were preparing for the next phase of the conflict. The Vrex might be powerful, but humanity had something they couldn't predict: the ability to evolve faster than their enemies could react. And now, the Vrex were about to learn that lesson the hard way. End of Chapter 3. The final battle had begun. Earth's defenses were holding strong, but the Vrex dominion was relentless. The alien invaders had not yet fully grasped the depth of humanity's resilience, and the fighting had only intensified in the past few hours. General Ava Moretti stood at the heart of Earth's command center, watching the latest battle reports flicker across the holographic display in front of her. Every moment felt like a countdown to a climax she couldn't afford to lose. The Vrex had launched a massive assault from orbit. Their fleet was enormous, nearly 100 ships descending like a swarm of locusts, intent on finishing what they had started. Despite their technological superiority, they were no closer to breaking through humanity's defenses. The gravity well systems, railguns, and nanobots had already crippled their first wave, but now humanity's most devastating weapon was about to be unleashed. "General," Dr. Kira Okoye's voice cut through the air. She was calm but urgent. "The Dyson swarm is online. We're ready to engage." Moretti nodded, her eyes narrowing with focus. The Dyson swarm, hundreds of autonomous satellites equipped with solar harvesting technology, was humanity's ultimate weapon. Designed to concentrate the energy of the sun into concentrated beams, these satellites could unleash destruction on a scale the Vrex could never have imagined. This was no longer about defense. It was about turning the tide of war in humanity's favor. "Activate it," Moretti ordered. Dr. Okoye tapped a series of commands into her console, and the sky over Earth's surface began to shimmer with an eerie, unnatural glow. From orbit, the satellites pivoted, aligning themselves with perfect precision. One by one, the beams of concentrated solar energy fired, punching through space with the force of 1,000 suns. The first beam struck a Vrex warship with a blinding flash. The ship didn't just take damage, it was disintegrated in a matter of seconds. The Vrex's massive shields, designed to withstand a near-endless barrage of fire, were useless against the focused solar-powered beams. The Vrex fleet had no time to react. Direct hit. Another one down. Lieutenant Jackson's voice echoed through the command room as more ships fell from orbit, one after the other. "We've broken their lines." Moretti felt a surge of hope, but she knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Vrex were far from finished. The Vrex Supreme Commander, Thrax, would never retreat without a fight. She watched as his flagship, the Ascendant, continued to advance toward Earth, its weapons primed and ready. "We need to neutralize that flagship," Moretti said, her voice steady. "It's their last hope." The Ascendant was surrounded by a protective shield, unlike anything the humans had seen before. But Moretti knew that humanity's most unpredictable strength wasn't its technology. It was its ability to think outside the box. "We've got one more trick up our sleeve," she said to Dr. Okoye, who was already preparing the final weapon. "Deploy the exopulse." The exopulse was an experimental electromagnetic disruptor that had been developed in secrecy. It could short-circuit anything with an energy signature, particularly advanced alien shields. If they could disable Thrax's flagship, the rest of the Vrex fleet would be vulnerable. The device was launched from Earth's surface, hurtling toward the Ascendant. In moments, it reached the flagship, and with a deafening crack, a pulse of energy erupted, flooding the Ascendant's systems. The Vrex flagship's shields flickered, then failed entirely. Moretti's heart raced as the enemy ship suddenly became an open target. "Now, fire the railguns," she commanded. Earth's satellites fired a concentrated barrage of railgun projectiles, their speed so high that the Vrex had no chance of stopping them. The first shot struck the Ascendant's hull with devastating force. The second pierced the core, causing a violent explosion that engulfed the flagship in flames. Within moments, the mighty ship had been reduced to a charred hulk, spiraling toward Earth's atmosphere, where it burned up on entry. The Vrex were now leaderless. As the rest of their fleet faltered, their forces began to disintegrate. The once feared invaders, who had believed their technology could crush all in its path, were now fighting a losing battle. Humanity had done the unthinkable. It had taken down the Vrex Dominion. Thrax's image flickered onto a screen in the command center, a final, desperate transmission from the Vrex Supreme Commander. His face twisted with rage, but also a deep, reluctant respect. You are not like the others, he spat. You have bested us. But remember, the galaxy is vast. There will always be another threat. Moretti stood tall, her gaze unwavering. We'll be ready. The transmission cut out. The battle was over. Earth had won. End of Chapter 4.